Somewhere below you right now, in water colder than your refrigerator and darker than anything on the surface will ever be, there is an animal whose entire head is transparent. You could look straight through its skull and watch its own green eyes swivel. We will get to that one. It earns the top of this list. The deep ocean is the largest living space on Earth, and almost none of it has ever seen the sun. The rules you take for granted up here about light and pressure and what a body is even allowed to look like simply stop applying down there. So we went down into it, and we ranked the 8 creatures that, by every instinct you have, should not be able to exist. We start strange. We end with the one that looks like a mistake the universe forgot to delete. This is the countdown. We open with the deepest octopus ever found, filmed nearly 7 kilometers beneath the surface, deeper than any other octopus known to science. At that depth, the pressure would crush a steel submarine. The water sits barely above freezing, and there is no light at all, ever. And the animal living down there is, somehow, the softest creature on this entire list. Watch how it moves. Most octopuses crawl and jet. This one flies. Those 2 soft flaps beating on either side of its head are fins, and it waves them like a tiny pair of ears to glide through the black, which is exactly why crews started calling it the Dumbo Octopus. It eats worms and snails off the seafloor, swallowing them whole. No ink, no panic, no defense. It just drifts, flapping, unbothered, through the most hostile place on the planet. In a world built to kill almost anything, the deepest octopus alive survives by being gentle. Now find the thing the size of a dinner plate dragging itself across the mud. You already know this animal. In your garden, it is the size of a fingernail, the little gray pill bug that rolls into a ball when you touch it. This is that exact creature. The same armored body plan, the same overlapping plates, just swollen to monstrous proportions in the cold and the dark, until it grows longer than your forearm. Down here, getting big and slow is how you survive a world with almost no food, and nothing shows that better than its hunger. Food in the abyss is so rare that the giant Isopod learned to simply wait. One kept in a Japanese aquarium refused every meal it was offered for over 5 straight years and lived. 5 years without a bite. When a feast finally does arrive, a dead fish, a fallen whale, it gorges until its shell is stretched tight and it can barely walk, then sinks back into the dark to wait, however long it takes, for the next one. This one stops people in their tracks, and the name does half the work. Scientists really do call it the Headless chicken monster, and the moment you watch it lift off the seafloor and flap away through the dark, pinkish, plump, faintly glowing, you understand why. But here is the twist that makes it strange instead of scary. It is completely harmless. It is a sea cucumber, the same soft lump that sits motionless on reefs all over the world. Except this one, almost alone among its thousands of relatives, learned to swim, pulsing webbed flaps to drift through open water like a ghost. And it is so transparent that you can see the dark coil of its gut, packed with the mud it just swallowed, right through its skin. It is hunting nothing. It glides down, vacuums up a mouthful of nutrient-rich sediment, and lifts off again, a janitor of the abyss, working the floor of a world where nothing edible is ever allowed to go to waste. Most animals, when something tries to eat them, run or hide. This one does the exact opposite. It turns on every light it has and makes itself impossible to ignore. Meet the alarm jelly, a deep red, wheel-shaped jellyfish drifting through water so dark that red is effectively invisible. But seize it, bite it, threaten it, and it erupts. A pinwheel of brilliant blue light spins around the rim of its body, pulse after pulse, flashing out into the black for tens of meters in every direction. Scientists call it the burglar alarm, and the logic is genuinely cold-blooded. The jelly cannot fight and cannot swim away fast enough. So instead it advertises its own attacker, broadcasting a signal across the open ocean that screams, "A meal is being eaten right here." The hope is brutal and simple. Attract something even bigger, a predator large enough to turn on whatever is biting the jelly. It survives by trying to get its own attacker killed. Out of the gloom drifts a shape that does not look engineered by the same planet as everything else. At first you read it as one body, then your eye finds the threads. 10 impossibly thin limbs, held out stiff from the body and then bent sharply at what looked like elbows, before trailing off into the dark for as far as 8 meters behind it. Nothing else in the ocean is built like this. It is the Bigfin Squid, and we have only ever seen it alive a handful of times, always by accident, always from a robot drifting a kilometer or 2 down. We have never once collected a full-grown body. And here is the part that should unsettle you. We still do not know how it feeds. We have never watched it catch a single thing. The leading guess is that it lowers those endless sticky threads like a curtain and waits for something to blunder in. But honestly, we are guessing. An animal this large, this distinctive, drifting through the biggest habitat on Earth, and its most basic act, how it eats to stay alive, is still a blank. Now we cross into something that breaks the very idea of an individual. Ahead, a thread of pale light stretches off into the dark, longer than a blue whale, coiling on itself like a galaxy made of glass. One filmed off the coast of Australia was estimated at around 45 meters long, which may make it the longest animal ever recorded. But that word, animal, is the lie. This is not one creature. It is a colony, thousands of tiny clones, all budded from a single original, each one grown into a specialized body part it can never leave. Some clones do nothing but swim. Some only sting. Some only digest. Some exist solely to reproduce. None of them can survive alone, and together they hunt as a single drifting curtain of venom, hauling in anything that touches the line. So when you ask whether you are looking at one animal or thousands, the honest answer is yes. It is both. Evolution built a single creature out of a crowd and stretched it longer than a whale. At number 2, the proportions stop making sense. This fish is barely the size of your hand, and for that tiny body, it carries the largest teeth, relative to its size, of any fish in the entire ocean. So long, so wildly oversized, that the animal physically cannot close its own mouth. Picture that, a predator whose main weapon will not let its own jaw shut. And evolution's fix is the detail that genuinely shouldn't exist. The 2 longest fangs in its lower jaw are so enormous that, if the mouth simply closed, they would stab up through the roof of its own head and into its brain. So the Fangtooth grew a pair of sockets, one on each side of its brain, purpose-built sheaths for its own teeth to slide harmlessly into. It carries daggers it has to holster inside its own skull. Down in the midnight zone, a meal might drift past once a month, and when it does, you cannot afford to miss. So this little fish became almost entirely a mouth, overbuilt, oversized, and impossible to ever fully shut. And here it is, the creature from the very first second of this video and the strangest body in the deep ocean. It hangs almost perfectly still, staring straight up. And its entire head is a transparent dome. Not pale, not see-through-ish, but clear, like a fluid-filled canopy of glass, and you are looking directly into its skull. Now find the eyes and try not to get it wrong, because almost everyone does. Those two things on the front of its face that look exactly like eyes. They are nostrils. The real eyes are the two glowing green orbs inside the transparent dome, tilted straight upward, peering out through the top of its own head. It floats motionless in the dark, watching the faint glow of the surface far above for the silhouette of anything edible. And when it spots a meal and tips down to take it, those eyes rotate forward inside the clear shield to keep tracking the target. Swiveling behind a windshield, it grew out of its own face. A fish that watches the world through the roof of its skull. Of everything down there, in the cold and the crushing dark, nothing else comes close. This is the creature that shouldn't exist. Eight creatures, and not one of them was invented for this video. Every single one was filmed or recorded in the real ocean, in the dark, mostly by accident, mostly within the last few decades. And here is the part worth sitting with. We have mapped more of the surface of Mars in high resolution than the floor of our own ocean. Most of the deep has never been seen by anyone at all, which means the strangest animal on Earth is almost certainly still down there right now, in water no light has ever touched, waiting to be filmed for the very first time. If you want to be here when we find it, subscribe. That is the whole reason this channel exists. And next time, we go further down than any creature on this list, all the way to the deepest point on the planet, and ask the only question that matters: what is still alive at the very bottom?